On Christmas Eve, 1945, a fire tore through the Sodder family home in Fayetteville, West Virginia. By morning, the house was reduced to ashes, and 5 of the Sodder children were missing. But what began as a family tragedy quickly spiraled into one of the strangest and most enduring mysteries in American history. George and Jenny Sodder were proud parents of 10 children. Their home was filled with laughter, warmth, and love, and Christmas 1945 was no different. Music echoed through the halls as the family opened their presents. The tree twinkled with lights. The youngest, Betty, gazed in awe at her rocking horse, while her older sister Martha marveled over a ukulele. The evening passed in a flurry of excitement and joy until, at around 12:30 a.m., a strange phone call awakened Jenny. The woman on the line asked for someone Jenny didn't know and then laughed. Not a normal laugh, but an odd, guttural cackle that sent chills down her spine. Before hanging up, the woman said, "Don't you recognize me?" Those words echoed in Jenny's mind long after the call ended. She turned to her husband, George, who lay beside her in their waterbed. He slept soundly, oblivious to the disturbance. As she watched him, a strange thought crossed her mind. If there was a fire, he wouldn't wake. George suffered from sleep apnea and often slept with his mouth open. Jenny shook him gently, but he only mumbled and turned away. Suddenly the smell of smoke jolted them upright. Thick black clouds billowed from the second floor, casting eerie shadows on the walls. "The children!" Jenny screamed, scrambling for the stairs. George sprang into action. He raced to get the buckets filled with water, while Jenny ran to wake their sleeping children. When George realized how big the fire was becoming, he knew they couldn't fight it. With the nearest fire station miles away, the closest they could hope for was help from their neighbors. In panic, he called out to the sleeping town. Soon, men arrived with their own buckets, forming a bucket brigade to try to contain the blaze. But the wind shifted, fanning the flames and turning their efforts to ash. Moments later, the entire street was engulfed in darkness. George, Jenny, and 4 of the children managed to escape. But 5, Morris, Martha, Louie, Jenny, and Betty, were never seen again. As they watched helplessly, the children disappeared into the inferno. Trapped inside the burning building, fear turned to ice-cold terror. Where did the children go? Were they trapped or lost? Did they even realize the danger? George desperately tried to find a way to save them, but fate seemed cruel. His ladder was missing. His water barrels were frozen. His 2 trucks, both of which had been fueled up earlier that night, inexplicably refused to start. And then the unimaginable happened. The roof collapsed, cutting off any possibility of escape. Screams pierced the night, echoing the terror of those trapped inside. All George could do was watch and pray. By the next morning, nothing remained but ashes and the faint memory of screams swallowed by the flames. But here's where the mystery deepens. As the fire department struggled to respond, arriving hours too late, George desperately tried to rescue his children. But when they searched the rubble, no bones were found. The fire had been hot enough to completely cremate the children, or so the authorities claimed, but experts disagreed. A house fire simply doesn't reach the temperatures needed to incinerate bone. Not in that amount of time, they stated. This was the first clue that something wasn't right. The children were gone, but where? Over the years, countless theories have emerged. Perhaps they hid in a part of the house that collapsed, or maybe they escaped and wandered into the nearby woods, unable to find their way back. Yet another theory suggests they were taken during the chaos, hidden somewhere waiting to be picked up later. But all these theories are challenged by the strange sightings reported shortly after the fire. One witness claimed she saw the children in a passing car as the fire raged. Another, a waitress in Charleston, hours away, insisted she serve them breakfast the next morning. These sightings hinted at a kidnapping, yet no ransom demands ever came. Years later, a photograph arrived in the mail. It was postmarked from Kentucky. It was unsigned and showed a young man in his mid to late 20s. The message on the back read, "Louis Sodder. I love brother Frankie. Ella boys, a 90132 or 35. To the Sodder family, the man in the photo strongly resembled Louis. Could it be him? Was it real? George and Jenny believed their children were kidnapped, perhaps by someone who had a personal grudge against them. Over the years, they paid for billboards across the state and hired private investigators, but the trail always went cold. Then in 1950, a new lead emerged. A man contacted the family claiming he had information about the children. According to him, they were being held captive by a man named John. He described John in detail and provided a name and location. Hope surged through the Sodder family. Could this be the break they'd been waiting for? They immediately contacted the local sheriff, but their hopes were dashed when the sheriff returned empty-handed. John didn't live there anymore, and no trace of the children was found. As the years passed, the case grew colder, leading many to believe the children were lost in the fire. However, eyewitnesses continued to come forward. They described seeing the Sodder children in various locations, but none of these sightings could be confirmed. Theories abounded. Some suggested the children weren't kidnapped, but had willingly run away from home. Others claimed they were victims of a bizarre cult, taken and brainwashed into a life far from their own. But these theories failed to explain the lack of remains. Others pointed fingers at the local authorities, accusing them of negligence. Had the fire department acted faster, perhaps the children could have been saved. Or were the authorities covering up something more sinister? The local police and fire departments stood by their findings. The children perished in the blaze, but they never explained the lack of remains or the dozens of eyewitness accounts that contradicted the official version. In 1969, George died, believing his children were alive. 7 years later, in 1976, a retired FBI agent reviewed the case, noting inconsistencies in the witness statements and suggesting the children may have indeed died in the fire. But this theory didn't satisfy everyone. Many still clung to the belief that the children were taken, hidden somewhere, waiting to be found. And so the mystery persisted. With each passing year, the hope of finding the children alive faded, replaced by a grimmer reality. The search became a somber hunt for answers. In 1989, Jenny, George's wife, passed away without any closure. Her final years were spent poring over old files, clinging to the belief that one day the truth would emerge. As the last of the original Sodder siblings aged, the mystery became a haunting echo from the past, a story of loss, hope, and an unanswered question that refused to die. What really happened to the Sodder children? The billboard that once stood along Route 16 is a silent reminder of this enduring mystery. For over 4 decades, it silently beckoned to passers-by, urging them to remember and perhaps to seek answers. It was a tangible link to a past that refused to stay buried. But the question it posed remains unanswered. Who took the Sodder children, and why? In the end, the disappearance of the Sodder children stands as one of America's most baffling mysteries. Eyewitnesses tell a story that contradicts the official version, a tale of children lost, but not in the way we were told. Were they lost to tragedy or stolen into silence? The truth may lie buried in the ashes of that fateful night, but the question echoes through the years, refusing to burn out. Was it a tragic accident, a calculated crime, or something else entirely? The answer might be lost forever, leaving us to grapple with the haunting reality that some mysteries are meant to remain unsolved. In the quiet moments when the wind whispers through the trees and the shadows lengthen, the story of the Sodder children comes to life. It's a story that has captivated generations, leaving us to ponder the fragility of life and the permanence of loss. Have you ever heard of the Sodder children? What do you think happened to them? Share your thoughts. And if you want to hear more forgotten mysteries and untold stories, subscribe for more. And until next time, remember, some mysteries never truly fade away. They become a part of our collective consciousness, haunting our thoughts and shaping our understanding of the world.